Son, okay. I just oh, no, I'm sorry. I don't apologize. True. I do not.
David, what's it like now that you've had a chance to be around camp and around Buffalo and to be away from the evil empire and here with, here with the Bills? I mean, what is that like as you reflect back?
I feel great. This is a great organization. It's a great team, great coaches, great teammates. I feel welcomed here. I feel like I fit in here. The city of Buffalo has definitely welcomed me with open arms, so has the team. So, I feel really comfortable. Camp has been great. It's been great to get out here to compete. And just come out here and put our best foot forward every day. So, it's been great, and I'm just looking forward to progressing each and every day.
You laughed when I said evil empire. You knew the reputation of the Patriots, especially in this town, did you? You don't have to answer that.
After the way you torched the Bills in the past year personally, you feel like you had to win a few people over in the fan base? They remember everything.
It's funny because, all I've heard since I got here, especially from the fans, is, we're glad you're running with us instead of against us. So, it was good that I didn't feel like I had to do too much. I feel like once I signed, everybody was kind of happy. Everybody was a little relieved. So it was good. Like I said, just to be welcomed with open arms. I know this is an incredible fan base. The best fans in the NFL. So, I'm glad to have them cheering for me instead of against me now.
That game, that win game a few years ago when you broke the long run,
Mm-hmm.
is that one of those games that you kind of always remember because of your impact, but just the weather that day or that night?
It's funny that you say that because I vividly remember every game against the Bills. My first touchdown in my career was in Highmark Stadium. Like that game, like you said, another one of the best games of my career was in Gillette against the Bills. So, I don't know what it was, but I felt like this organization always kind of brought out the best of me as a competitor. So, I feel like now that I'm here, I can still feel that pumping through me. So, I feel even more juiced up now, and I feel like, obviously being coached by these great coaches, my teammates pushing me, it's just pushing me to be my absolute best.
You've been on the field with Josh and watched him from afar before. What was maybe something that you didn't expect, having been around him now a couple of weeks?
Just his personality, I always admired Josh. Ironically, he's always been my favorite player. We actually have a mutual friend that we worked with through our agency, and I would always text her whenever the Bills were playing and I'd be watching. I'd be like, dude, Josh is amazing, like, regardless of what he was doing. So, but just his personality, he's like a big kid, I know you guys know that. He loves to have fun. He's always got a smile on his face. I was actually having a conversation with him yesterday during a walkthrough, and he's just talking about, I'm always in a good mood. I'm always happy. Nothing can break that. And I respect it. I admire it. And, it's very infectious throughout anybody that comes in contact with him. So, it's been a, I wouldn't use the word surprise, but it's definitely been something that, has, that I've liked to get to know that side of him. Obviously he's a great football player, and, when we're between the white lines, he's very serious. He's about his business. But, outside of that, he likes to keep everybody engaged, keep a smile on everybody's face. And I think that kind of personality and mentality, it keeps guys fresh mentally and, ready. Hey, there's my friend back there. Hey, what's going on, twin? What's up, pal? Yeah, it keeps all of us, like I said, it clearly rubs off on all of us, so it keeps guys locked in and, having a good time during the dog days of camp.
That description sounds just like James Cook.
Tell
us about him, though. What have been your impressions of him?
Good old Jimbo. Jimbo's a different cat. He is a little bit more mild-mannered, but he's very, once you peel back the layers, he's got that same personality. He likes to have fun. We all do. We're all in this together, and we all love to just, first and foremost, come out here and compete every single day. But, once we're off the field, whether it's in the meeting rooms or whatever, when we're watching film, we cut up. We like to have fun. We like to laugh. We joke. obviously with Coach Skip in there is laughs and smiles all day long. So, you know, Jimbo, he's a great teammate. He's a great competitor. And, you know, we're lucky to have him out there on the field. And, you know, I just love being able to be a part of that room. You know, we got a lot of great players in that room. So, you know, all we do is go in there every day, put our best foot forward. That way we can be the best group. That way we can do what we can to affect the offense the best way that we can.
And how much of a sense of obligation do you feel as this group to improve this running game, which has been a shortcoming, part of the reason you're here, obviously? Do you sense that you know that they need to get that better? Give me a collective mindset of that if you can.
I mean, to answer your question, yes. I mean, I definitely feel that obligation personally, as well as, you know, all the guys in the room. Not because of a lack thereof in the past, but just because that's what we're here to do. You know, as running backs, we got to do a lot of jobs. We got to block, we got to run, we got to catch, we got to do all things. So, you know, whether it's running the ball, catching the ball, running good routes, blocking, protecting Josh, you know, we take a lot of pride in that. So, obviously, we want to improve the run game, but we want to improve the pass game. We want to improve the pass protection game. You know, however we can positively affect the offense, you know, that's what we're here to do.
It all kind of goes hand in hand, right? I mean, especially if you look at, I don't know, given what other offenses you've been a part of and you compare to this one, you give Josh Allen real balance, right? With a really consistent, a more consistent running game. What does that generally mean?
Well, I mean, it sounds like you answered your own question, but
yeah, I suppose I'm leading you in a direction. I
yeah,
suppose, but
right.
You know,
I mean, I'll put it to you this way. I would love to. I say this personally. I know that we all feel this way, but I want to take as much of the burden off of Josh as I possibly can. You know, I want to let him to be able to go out there and play free, throw the ball, stay healthy. You know, do his thing. You know, obviously, he's a freak of nature, so he does a lot of things. But, you know, if I can help take some hits off his shoulders and, you know, keep his legs fresh, I'd love to do that. You know what I mean? Whether that's him throwing me the ball in the backfield, that way he doesn't get hit, I'd love to do that. Whether that's picking up blitzes, that way the pocket's clean and he doesn't have to get hit in the pocket, I'd love to do that. So whatever, you know, we can do, obviously, to make the offense better. You know, obviously Josh is a big part of that. So, you know, we want to protect him, obviously, and keep him at his best, along with, obviously, being in tune with the rest of the offense, you know.
You talked about the room and all the things you guys got to do. We tend to look at the running back position as you guys having certain skill sets that maybe work, and Murray's a bigger back, and Cook out of the backfield. Do you guys ever look at it that way? And if so, what specifically do you feel like is your best skill to bring to this running back room?
To answer the first part of your question, it doesn't matter. We know that everybody outside, you know, no offense, you guys obviously have a job to do, but everybody on the outside looking in, they have to label us, you know, this guy can do this guy does this guy brings this to the table. When at the end of the day, Coach Skip, he coaches us all the same. You know, Coach Dorsey, he coaches us all the same, whether it's run game, pass game, whatever. Some of us are on special teams, you know, whatever the case may be, we're coached up all the same. You know what I mean? It's not like, oh, well, this guy does this, so he's going to just practice this, and then these guys are just going to practice that. Like, that's not the way that it works. You know, we all know that regardless of who's in, the play calls are probably going to be the same. You know what I mean? So we all have to just continue to craft our skill set. That way we can be good in all phases of the offense. And me personally, I just want to bring, you know, that physicality that I've played with my entire career. I want to bring that joy, that infectious personality. You know, I feel very fortunate to play this great game. And, you know, every time I step on the field, I feel God moving through me, you know, because, you know, he didn't have to choose me to be in this position. And, you know, I just feel so blessed and so grateful to step on this field, especially with my teammates, with this great organization. So, you know, I want to bring that positivity to the team and just, you know, let everybody feel that from me and just let it flow through the whole team, you know, because at the end of the day, you know, we're all so blessed and we're all so fortunate to play this great game. So, you know, I'll never take a day for granted because I don't know, you know, when my last play is going to be, you know, when my last day is going to be. But what I can promise you is that my last day will be meaningful because every time I step out here, you know, I leave it all out there.
Damien, you're so well versed in so
Thank you.
As a running back. I'm buttering you up. But
Keep going.
What's your take on the whole running back situation this summer? Just this whole undervalued and just what's going on in your mind?
I mean, I think that without saying, I think you guys know how all the running backs feel when this conversation comes up. I choose not to speak on it right now because at the end of the day, I signed my name on the dotted line, and my ink is dry, and I'm under contract. So me, talking about it's not going to affect my situation right now. I'm all about being in the present, being where my feet are, and as of right now, I'm a Buffalo Bill, and that's what my focus is on. It's just being a Buffalo Bill.
Is it fair? Okay.
You're going to try again, aren't you? I know you are. You're going to give it another shot. Okay.
I buttered them up. How's this one?
Are you going to butter me up first or no?
Well, you've been so cooperative and congenial.
Okay, round of applause for this guy. That was great.
So Jonathan Taylor's situation, though, feels like it's different than so many others in a lot of different ways. Ownership gets involved with conversation about it. You're going nowhere. Do you feel, as a fellow back and someone I'm guessing you know pretty well, what's your sense of this situation? Do you have any?
To be completely honest, I'm not too familiar with the situation. I'm not on social media right now. It's camp. I'm in my playbook right now. I'm in the meetings and stuff. So I'm not really on social media. I know that he requested a trade, and the ownership is saying something. Like I said, I'm not too familiar with it, so that's not something I would comment on because I'm not very well versed in that.
Damien, one of the questions that you got asked about earlier was what you learned about Josh. Is there anybody you maybe didn't know about a lot that you have learned from the time that you got here that surprised you, whether it be a single person or even like a position group?
What surprised me the most is I learned that Matt Milano loves house music. He loves the real upbeat, like like we were getting massages last night, a couple of guys, and we literally had a full-on like house music DJ fest. It was like me, him, Big Greg, Quesenberry, even Tim Settle came in, and he was kind of vibing with the house music. So I think we had a pretty good playlist going. I think we got it pretty down pat. But that was I would say about an individual person. I did not expect Matt Milano to be a house music fan, so that definitely surprised me.
Got Matt to talk, actually?
Yeah, well, yeah. No, it really, because we had a full conversation about house music. Because I'm not gonna I'm not the biggest house fan. Like, I'm not the biggest in the world, but I dabble a little bit. You know what I mean? I dabble, so. We would go back and forth comparing this song to that song. Plus, Matt, he's a New England guy. He went to BC and, where I was in New England for a little bit. So him and I have like a small connection from that. But, I think I got Milano to open up a little bit, clearly not too many people know he likes house music. So I definitely just outed him on that, and I do not care at all. So if he's got a problem with that. Yeah, I'm trying to, hold on. What was his favorite song? Hold on, let me think. If I had my phone, I can't think of the name of it, but if I had my phone, I would play it. But.
You mentioned how, just naturally players get categorized, lumped into this guy does this guy does this. Last year, I think Ramondre got a lot of catches, but you're a pretty smooth catcher of the ball, even though that wasn't your primary running back role, if you will. Just what do you think if you this is a passing offense? If you get the opportunity to show that ability, how do you feel about showing off your catching ability here?
I'm trying to think of how to answer this question. It was a very long-worded question. You started by saying, well, I'll say in the middle, you alluded to the fact that I was a smooth catcher of the ball. I don't want to misquote you. Okay. A smooth catcher of the ball. And then you mentioned that this is a passing offense. So I would think that if I was a smooth catcher of the ball, that I'd probably fit in well in a passing offense. Thank you. Let's go, Buffalo.